the Meghan Markle was on my flight, and she's so beautiful in person. She was so sweet. She wrote us a little handwritten note back. So we wrote her a note that said,
This was, well, let's look at the People headline because this was the official PR spin version of it. Handwritten notes on napkins plus a manicure compliment with flight crew girlies. American Airlines flight attendant Nina V.
Going off, talking about, oh my God, I just met the princess. No, first she said the queen. The Duchess, the queen, the princess, the queen, the princess, the Duchess of...
In the world of celebrity culture and public image, few names command as much fascination and controversy as Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. On what seemed like an ordinary spring day, the internet lit up with a heartwarming story. Meghan Markle, global figure and self-proclaimed advocate of humility, had ditched her usual private jets to fly commercial. And not just that, she had taken the time to pen a handwritten thank you note on an airplane napkin to the flight crew of an American Airlines domestic flight. The story first emerged on TikTok, posted by a flight attendant named Nina Vida, who described the surreal moment she realized she was serving the princess, the Duchess of Sussex. Her tone was casual, bubbly, and starstruck, an ideal match for virality. The TikTok, peppered with giggles and a clumsily pronounced royal title, gained traction rapidly. We wrote her a note that said, "It's a pleasure serving you. We love you real bad," Nina recounted, holding up what she claimed was Meghan's reply. "Dear AA girlies, thank you for the love, hospitality, and handwritten note. You know me well. All love right back to you. Forever, Meghan." The internet swooned. Fans flooded the comment section, praising Meghan's grace and down-to-earth attitude. Media outlets like People magazine and Page Six picked up the story within hours, each writing glowing headlines like, "Meghan Markle ditches private jet, flies commercial with class," and "The Duchess of Humility, Meghan's sweet note to AA flight crew goes viral." But as with many viral fairy tales, the cracks began to show. Critics on social media began questioning the authenticity of the story almost immediately. The central issue: where is the evidence? Despite the prominence of the Duchess, there were no photos, no fan sightings, no leaked manifest, and no corroborating accounts. Just one TikTok video, a napkin, and a blurry anecdote. Then came the timeline check. The image used by Page Six to support the story was quickly identified by internet sleuths as a photo from 2016, taken at Heathrow Airport, London, not JFK or LAX. There was no disclaimer in the article, no caption to clarify that the image was archival. For many readers, it felt like intentional misdirection. Was the public being played? Moreover, questions began to surface about the flight attendant herself. Nina Vida, now in the spotlight, started receiving scrutiny. Her social media accounts revealed no history of working long-term at American Airlines. Some users noted that her appearance, including long manicured nails, violated basic airline grooming standards. And most concerning of all, within days of the story going viral, Nina allegedly walked back her claim. According to sources cited in French outlets, Nina had confided that she never actually saw Meghan on the flight. There was no interaction, no service, no note exchange. The napkin and the message were, if these claims are accurate, either a fabrication or a carefully crafted PR stunt. This led many to suspect that the entire episode had been orchestrated for image repair. After all, Meghan's recent media ventures, her podcast Archetypes and several Netflix productions, had underperformed. Public sentiment, too, had cooled. A heartwarming viral moment would be an excellent way to refresh her image without needing to say a word. But the miscalculation, if there was one, lay in underestimating the internet's collective memory and its hunger for truth. The era of unchallenged celebrity narratives is over. Audiences now expect receipts, and in this case, the receipts were missing, or worse, potentially forged. The backlash intensified when independent commentators and influencers, including the Royal Rogue, published breakdowns exposing the inconsistencies. Unless this was a carefully approved PR stunt, one commentator posted, this flight attendant just handed over her job. American Airlines has clear directives, no sharing passenger identities, especially not VIPs on social media. If the incident was indeed a manufactured moment, the risks were significant. A breach of privacy policy could jeopardize Nina's employment. A fraudulent narrative, once exposed, could backfire on Meghan more than it helped her. And media outlets like Page 6, by failing to vet sources or images, faced accusations of journalistic negligence. In the aftermath, one question lingered more than any other. Why? Why would a royal figure, already under heavy public scrutiny, attempt such an easily disprovable stunt? Was this an act of desperation from a team struggling to keep the Duchess's public narrative afloat? Or a simple misunderstanding blown out of proportion by the internet? Whatever the truth may be, the story of the napkin note serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile image management can be in the digital age. In an era where every post is archived, every timeline cross-referenced, and every photo dissected, even a napkin can become a national headline, and possibly a cautionary tale. As the media ran with the feel-good tale of Meghan Markle flying commercial and penning a heartfelt note to the American Airlines cabin crew, something peculiar began to happen. The story didn't deepen, it unraveled. While tabloids and celebrity news outlets gushed over the Duchess of Sussex's humility and supposed realness, skeptics and independent watchdogs online grew increasingly vocal. What began as a sweet viral moment had become a case study in public relations gone awry. The deeper the internet dug, the more inconsistencies surfaced. One of the earliest and most damning revelations came from amateur digital investigators on X, formerly Twitter and Reddit. Users quickly identified the promotional image used by Page 6 to illustrate the story as a 2016 photograph, not recent, not relevant, and not taken at the airport in question. It was an old paparazzi shot of Meghan at Heathrow, flanked by security, heading to London during her Suits era. There was no mention of its date or source in the article, only a vague implication that it was current. This wasn't a small error. In the age of digital literacy and real-time verification, the use of a misleading image is tantamount to deception. To readers paying close attention, this omission suggested one of two things: incompetence or intent. Either Page 6 had failed its most basic fact-checking obligations, or it was complicit in crafting a narrative that simply did not exist. The backlash was swift. "They're gaslighting the audience," wrote one user. "This is not a slip-up. It's a pattern." Influencers and digital sleuths began posting side-by-side comparisons of the photo in question, clearly time-stamped years prior. The visual evidence was undeniable. More importantly, the key witness, the flight attendant, began to waver. Initially, Nina Vida was hailed as the charming everywoman who happened to serve a duchess. But within days, reports surfaced suggesting that Nina had confided in international media sources that she never directly served Meghan, nor did she recall seeing her on board. The note, the interaction, the entire moment, may have been fabricated or exaggerated for social media engagement. Whatever the truth, her reversal cast a shadow over the already fragile story. It was a critical moment. What had once been a tale of royal kindness had become a potential scandal, a PR stunt misfired. The media, once quick to publish the fluff, were now forced to reckon with mounting public doubt. If Meghan had not been on the flight, who wrote the note? Why would a flight attendant risk her job and reputation by violating American Airlines' strict privacy policies, especially if the incident never occurred? And if the whole situation was orchestrated, who stood to benefit? The answer, many suggested, pointed back to the Duchess herself. Meghan Markle had, in recent months, struggled to maintain media momentum. Her Spotify deal had been quietly dissolved, Netflix partnerships were reportedly under review, and her public approval ratings had plateaued. This viral story had all the hallmarks of a soft reboot, an attempt to recast her as relatable royalty, the kind of celebrity who flies coach and writes thank you notes to flight attendants. But there was a problem. The audience was no longer buying it. Gone are the days when glossy magazines could manufacture a celebrity's image without resistance. Today's digital audience is hypervigilant, cross-referencing media claims in real time. When a celebrity narrative doesn't hold up under scrutiny, the fallout can be swift and severe. Even some of Meghan's prior defenders began to ask uncomfortable questions. Why does every public moment feel scripted? Why are genuine connections wrapped in layers of calculated messaging? The Duchess, once a symbol of breaking norms, was now accused of mimicking them with uncanny precision, down to emulating Princess Diana's handwritten letters in an apparent homage that many found more eerie than endearing. And then there was the silence. No follow-up statement from American Airlines. No comment from Meghan's team. No second video. No witness testimony. No digital trail. For a woman so often in the spotlight and famously media-savvy, the void of documentation was deafening. It didn't take long before some began to question whether Meghan had even been on the flight at all. If so, where were the fellow passengers? The airport staff? The selfies? Meghan Markle is not someone who slips through a terminal unnoticed. Instead, what remained was a narrative in free fall, held together by a napkin and a social media post, both now in dispute. In an era where public trust in media is at an all-time low, stories like this one feed the growing cynicism. People don't just want to believe, they want to verify. And when verification fails, backlash is inevitable. The napkin note, once hailed as a charming anecdote, had become a symbol of something much larger, the fragility of curated celebrity personas in the digital age. If anything, this controversy served as a warning, not just to Meghan Markle and her team, but to the media at large. Manufactured moments, no matter how sweetly written, will collapse under the weight of truth. And the internet, as it often does, will be there to collect the pieces. In the age of smartphones and surveillance, true anonymity is a rare luxury, especially for a globally recognized figure like Meghan Markle. But in the unfolding saga of the napkin note, one glaring detail has continued to baffle skeptics and loyalists alike: the complete and utter lack of visual proof. For a story so heavily driven by image, a royal figure flying commercial, connecting with everyday flight crew, leaving behind a handwritten token of appreciation, the absence of any photo or video documentation is not just curious, it's deeply suspicious. Let's be clear, Meghan Markle is not an anonymous figure. She is a woman who, even post-Megxit, remains one of the most photographed public personalities in the world. Whether she's walking her dog, attending a fundraiser, or stepping into a cafe, lenses follow her. The idea that she boarded, flew on, and exited a commercial flight without a single smartphone capturing her presence is, by all rational standards, highly improbable. And yet, that is exactly what this story asks the public to believe. The TikTok video from flight attendant Nina Vida, which originally sparked the story, contains no imagery of Meghan herself. No boarding video, no walk down the aisle, no in-flight glimpses, no selfies with the AA girlies. Just a story and a napkin, presented as gospel. From a public relations perspective, this is marketing malpractice. Meghan Markle has long curated her image through tightly controlled visual storytelling. From her Oprah interview to the Netflix docu-series, the message has always been wrapped in polished visuals. So why, in this supposed moment of humble grace, was the camera missing? Critics argue the omission is not just a coincidence, it's a deliberate safeguard. No images mean no accountability. If the story is questioned or contradicted, there's nothing concrete to disprove or confirm. It remains in the nebulous space of, "it happened because I said so." But for many, that isn't enough. The mystery deepens when this incident is placed in a broader context of Meghan's recent media appearances and personal disclosures, particularly around her role as a mother and her current family dynamic. In a previous public interview, Meghan shared that when she travels away from her children, she reads them bedtime stories via email. The comment, seemingly innocent, became a flashpoint for critics. Email? One commenter asked. What parent emails their kids goodnight stories in 2025, especially someone who could afford video calls, recordings, even private tutors? The answer seemed to suggest distance, not just physical, but emotional and relational. Was she truly with her children? Were the children even in California? Or, as some now speculate, were they with Harry, perhaps in New York or elsewhere altogether? This theory gained traction after Meghan's awkward slip in another interview, where she began to say, "whoever's with them," before correcting herself to say, "Pop," seemingly referring to Harry. The moment was brief, but in the digital age, nothing goes unnoticed. Add to this the conspicuous absence of Prince Harry in the napkin note narrative, and the silence becomes deafening. If Meghan was traveling solo from New York, why wasn't Harry with her? Why no mention of his whereabouts or the children's? For a couple that built a brand on togetherness, their increasing separate visibility has raised eyebrows and questions. Even die-hard supporters have begun to ask, is this all part of a new narrative rollout? A subtle rebranding? A transition to Meghan, the independent mother, philanthropist, and female founder? The theory isn't far-fetched. In Hollywood and royal PR circles alike, distancing narratives are often introduced slowly, by omission rather than declaration. The lack of images, the absence of Harry, the vague references to children all contribute to a soft reset of Meghan's brand. And the napkin note fits snugly within this trajectory. An image of solo humility, maternal warmth, and unrecorded virtue. But the internet is no longer an audience of passive consumers. It is a forensic crowdsource machine. And when a public figure leans heavily into a narrative that lacks verification, be it visual, factual, or testimonial, skepticism isn't just expected. It's inevitable. No witnesses, no airport footage, no paparazzi, no fan photos, not even a passing mention from fellow passengers on social media. For an event involving a duchess on a public flight in a major city, this silence is nothing short of extraordinary. And so, the mystery grows, not just of the flight, but of what else might be quietly shifting behind the scenes. Is Meghan attempting to reclaim a personal identity outside of Harry and the royal drama? Are we witnessing the early signs of a deeper divide within the Sussex family? Or is this simply an overblown moment, misunderstood and mismanaged in the chaos of modern media? No matter the answer, one thing is clear. Stories without evidence no longer survive on charm alone. Not even royal ones. What began as a heartwarming tale of humility in flight has unraveled into a case study in modern-day media manipulation. The story of Meghan Markle's alleged commercial airline journey, capped by a handwritten thank you note to the flight crew, has fractured under the pressure of public scrutiny, leaving behind only questions, contradictions, and a damaged sense of trust. In the vacuum of hard evidence, no photo, no boarding pass, no credible eyewitness, the narrative crumbled. What might have once passed as an unchallenged royal anecdote now exists in the harsh, unfiltered glare of digital accountability. The social media age has taught. But what makes this incident more than just a fleeting PR blunder is the broader pattern it reveals: the manufacturing of authenticity. Whether it's a duchess writing notes on napkins or casually mentioning bedtime emails to children who are nowhere in sight, the public is being served a curated version of reality that increasingly doesn't withstand even basic journalistic inquiry. More damning than the absence of proof is the implication of intent. This was not merely a story that failed, it was a story that looked carefully designed to succeed. A story dropped into the news cycle at a moment when Meghan Markle's image needed rejuvenation. A moment when her projects were stalling, her media traction waning, and speculation around her marriage and motherhood beginning to gain volume. For many, the timing was too perfect, the script too familiar. The humble Duchess flying coach, the handwritten note channeling the grace of Princess Diana, the overjoyed flight attendant gushing about nails and nobility, the media seizing the story without context or caution, the lack of follow-up, the silence when it mattered most. These are not coincidences, they are cues, and they signal something greater than one woman's attempt at image control. They highlight how deeply embedded performative authenticity has become in modern celebrity culture, where moments are staged to appear unstaged, where humility is carefully photographed and kindness is commodified. Worse yet, the media's role in this affair cannot be ignored. Outlets like Page Six failed in their basic editorial duty, publishing a 2016 photo without context, running a story without secondary verification, trusting a single TikTok as the foundation for a high-profile narrative. In any other context, this would be journalistic malpractice. In the world of celebrity reporting, it was business as usual. But audiences have evolved. No longer satisfied with glossy PR lines or soft-focus fables, the modern reader is hyper-aware, hyper-connected, and increasingly intolerant of manipulation. They no longer consume stories passively, they deconstruct them. And when those stories don't hold up, the backlash is swift, public, and unforgiving. The fallout from the napkin note saga extends far beyond Meghan Markle or a single flight. It speaks to the larger erosion of credibility in celebrity culture, in media institutions, and in public trust. When a simple tale of gratitude becomes a potential case of deceit, the consequences reverberate. Even among her former defenders, Meghan's once shining image has begun to dull. People aren't just questioning this one story, they're questioning the entire narrative. The curated podcasts, the selective interviews, the royal distancing, the inconsistencies in her public persona versus her private actions. The result is a split-screen perception of the Duchess. One part champion of women and modernity, the other part architect of carefully staged moments. And in the growing space between those two images, doubt flourishes. So where does this leave the Duchess of Sussex? Stripped of illusion, Meghan is now facing a different audience, one that no longer grants benefit of the doubt so easily. If she is to regain the public's trust, it will not be through soft PR stunts or nostalgic callbacks to royal legacy. It will require authenticity that doesn't ask to be believed, but proves itself through transparency. Because in this post-truth era, even royalty isn't above the demand for receipts. And as for the flight that may or may not have happened, the note that may or may not have been written, and the persona that may or may not reflect the real woman, those reflections now float like broken glass in the public consciousness. Not so much a fall from grace, but a shattering of illusion mid-air.